Welcome to TechDaily.AI. Today we're diving deep into quite a crucial decision for anyone working with virtualized environments.
Absolutely. Whether you're managing complex IT setups or, just running your own systems as a tech enthusiast, the platform choice matters a lot.
It really does. And that's why today we're focusing on comparing two big players, ProxMox VE and VMware ESXi.
We'll look at features, performance, cost, usability,
Yeah.
basically everything you need to know.
Exactly. Think of this as, well, your guide to figuring out which of these powerful tools might be the best fit for what you're doing or maybe planning to do. We'll unpack the key differences.
Yeah, cut through the noise and highlight what really makes each one tick so you can choose wisely.
Okay, but before we jump into that comparison, just a quick word about our sponsor, Stonefly.
Ah, yes, Stonefly.
They offer a really comprehensive range of products and services designed for data storage, backup, and disaster recovery needs.
So if you're looking for robust storage appliances, efficient backup solutions, or solid disaster recovery planning, they're definitely worth checking out.
For sure. Their solutions are trusted by businesses, big and small, really, to ensure data is available and things keep running smoothly, business continuity.
Definitely. Reliable data management is key, and Stonefly provides some strong solutions there.
Okay, so let's get into it. ProxMox VE versus VMware ESXi. Let's maybe start with a quick overview of each one. What are they fundamentally?
Right, so ProxMox VE, it's open source, first off, built on Debian Linux.
Okay, Linux-based.
Yeah, and it's free to use. The interesting thing is it combines KVM for like full virtual machines and LXC for lightweight containers.
So VMs and containers on the same platform.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's generally known for being pretty easy to set up with a nice web interface for management. That free aspect really lowers the barrier for smaller setups.
Makes sense. And then there's ESXi. How does that compare?
Well, VMware ESXi is different. It's a bare metal hypervisor.
Meaning it installs directly onto the hardware. No underlying OS like Debian.
Precisely. Installs right onto the server. It's definitely an industry standard, especially in bigger enterprise environments. Very robust, lots of features.
Is it free?
There is a free version, good for personal use maybe,
Yeah.
but, this is a big but, the really advanced stuff, the features enterprises need, usually require the paid vCenter server management platform.
Okay, so fundamentally different approaches there. Bare metal versus OS-based, and the free model has caveats on the ESX side.
Right, and that difference impacts things like resource use and how you manage it all.
Let's dig into that a bit. How do they handle virtualization? And you mentioned containers with Proxmox.
Yeah, ProxMox has that dual approach. KVM lets you run pretty much any OS in a full VM, Windows, Linux, whatever.
Standard VM stuff.
Standard VM stuff, yeah. And then LXC is for containers. These are much more lightweight than full VMs, use fewer resources, great for running specific applications efficiently. So you get both options.
More tools in the toolbox, depending on the job. What about ESXi on the container front?
ESX is really focused on virtual machines.
Yeah.
It doesn't have native support for containers like Docker or Kubernetes built in.
So if you need containers on ESX,
You typically run them inside a VM. So you'd set up a Linux VM, for instance, and then run Docker or Kubernetes inside that.
adds a layer of overhead then, potentially?
It can, yes. It's just a different architectural focus.
Yeah.
ESX is built around rock-solid VM management. ProxMox leverages the Linux kernel more directly for that container flexibility.
That's a really key difference to grasp. Okay, let's shift gears. Performance and maybe the hardware you need to run these things.
Right. ProxMox is generally more flexible with hardware. It often runs on a wider range of stuff, even older commodity hardware sometimes.
So easier to repurpose existing servers, maybe?
Potentially, yes. But the flip side is, because it's less restrictive, you might occasionally run into, say, driver issues or need to do a bit more configuration yourself to get things optimized.
Okay, flexibility sometimes means more tinkering. What about ESX and hardware? You said it's stricter.
Much stricter. VMware maintains a hardware compatibility list, the HCL. For best performance, and crucially, for official support, you really need to use hardware that's on that list.
So less choice, but maybe more predictability.
Exactly. The HCL gives enterprises confidence, especially for critical workloads. It's tested and certified to work well. It usually means better performance out of the box for demanding stuff. But yeah, less flexibility on what you can run it on.
Let's talk money. Cost and licensing, always a big factor. How does Proxmox work? You said it's free.
The core platform is completely free to download and use. No feature restrictions based on payment for the software itself.
But there are paid options.
Yes, they offer optional paid subscriptions. These don't unlock features, but they give you access to the more stable enterprise software repositories, basically, more rigorously tested updates, and importantly, professional support.
Okay, so you pay for support and stability assurance if you need it. What are the costs like?
They have tiers. Starts around €115 per year per CPU socket for the basic community level, going up to over €1,000 for the premium tier with faster support. But again, the software itself, free.
Got it. Free core, optional paid support. Now, ESXi, you mentioned a free version, but with limits.
Right. The free ESXi hypervisor exists, but it has significant limitations. For example, you can't centrally manage multiple hosts using vCenter Server with the free license. And there used to be limits on things like vCPUs per VM, though that changes.
So to get the full experience, you need paid licenses.
Absolutely. And VMware's licensing moved to a per-core subscription model.
Per core, not per socket.
Per core, with a minimum of 16 cores per CPU license. So even if your CPU has fewer cores, you pay for 16. And if you have lots of cores, the cost adds up quickly. You need licenses for ESXi itself, like vSphere Standard or Enterprise Plus, and often for vCenter Server too.
Wow, okay. That sounds potentially much more expensive and complex than ProxMox's model, especially for the advanced features.
It generally is, yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's a major decision point for many people.
Definitely. Okay, let's talk storage. How do they handle storing all those VMs and containers?
ProxMox is really versatile here. It supports ZFS, which is fantastic for data integrity, and has features like snapshots and compression built in.
I've heard good things about ZFS.
Yeah, it's very robust. ProxMox also supports standard LVM and distributed storage like Ceph, which lets you pool storage across multiple servers. Lots of options.
And ESSi, what's its main storage approach?
ESXi primarily uses VMFS VMware file system. It's a high-performance clustered file system designed specifically for VMs.
Clustered meaning multiple hosts can access the same storage.
Correct. It stores virtual disks, usually in the MDK format, and it works well with network storage like NFS shares.
Okay. Let's talk data safety. Backups, snapshots, disaster recovery, critical stuff. What does ProxMox offer?
ProxMox has built-in tools for taking live snapshots of VMs and containers. It also has an integrated backup system. You can back up to various targets, local disk, NFS, dedicated backup storage. Pretty flexible.
So basic backup is built in and free. ESXi.
ESS supports VM snapshots too, which capture a point-in-time state. Good for temporary rollbacks. For full backups in DR, though, the ecosystem heavily relies on third-party tools.
Like Veeam, for instance.
Exactly. Veeam is probably the most popular backup solution for VMware environments. Excellent tool, but it's another piece of software, often with its own licensing costs.
Right, so built-in basics for ProxMox rely more on third-party ecosystem for ESX. How about resource usage? Does one use more server resources just to run itself?
Well, ProxMox runs on top of Debian Linux, so there's a bit more overhead from that underlying OS compared to ESS.
Because ESS is bare metal.
Right. ESX installs directly, so its own footprint is incredibly small. It's designed to dedicate almost all the hardware resources, CPU, RAM, I/O, directly to the virtual machines.
So ESS might be slightly more efficient in pure resource allocation to the VMs?
Potentially. Yes, especially at scale. And the paid versions of ESXi have features like DRS Distributed Resource Scheduler, which automatically balances VM workloads across hosts for optimal resource use. ProxMox manages resources well, but ESXi's bare metal nature gives it a theoretical edge in minimizing host overhead.
Stability and reliability, always important. How do they stack up?
ProxMox has a really large, active open source community. That means lots of eyes on the code, frequent updates, and usually quick identification of issues. The updates are generally reliable.
Community power.
Definitely. And that community provides a lot of support through forums and documentation. ESXi, on the other hand, is known for its rock-solid stability. VMware has very rigorous testing processes.
Longer update cycles, maybe.
Often, yes. More predictable, perhaps. And they have extensive official documentation, plus, crucially for businesses, commercial support contracts with guaranteed response times. That vendor backing is a big deal for many enterprises.
Okay, day-to-day use. Managing these things, what's the interface like?
ProxMox has a pretty good web-based GUI. Most common tasks are straightforward through the browser. It's generally considered quite user-friendly.
And a command line, too.
Oh yeah, full command line interface, CLI for advanced users or scripting. Very powerful.
How about ESXi management?
ESC also has a web interface, but well, it's often seen as less intuitive or comprehensive than ProxMox's for everyday tasks.
So how do people manage ESXi, mainly?
For anything beyond a single host, administrators almost always use the vSphere client. This is a dedicated application, historically a desktop app, now also web-based, that connects to vCenter Server for centralized management. It's very feature-rich, but it's another component.
And ESC has a CLI, too.
Yes, accessible via SSH.
Yeah.
Powerful, but maybe used less for routine tasks compared to the vSphere client.
Community and documentation. We touch on this with stability. ProxMox has the big community.
Yeah, massive. Tons of community-written guides, forum posts, wikis. If you have a problem, chances are someone else has to and posted a solution.
And ESXi relies more on.
Official VMware documentation primarily. It's very comprehensive, very detailed, but can sometimes be dense or a bit harder for beginners to navigate. And then there's the paid commercial support option, of course.
Let's quickly touch on installation again. ProxMox is straightforward ISO, broad hardware support.
Right. Pretty easy install.
Yeah.
Generally less fussy about the hardware it's going on to.
ESSO.
Right.
Simple install too, but that HCL is key.
Yep. Installation itself is simple, but you must pay attention to the hardware compatibility list, especially for production. And VMware does sometimes drop support for older hardware in new versions, which is something to keep in mind.
Okay, what about scaling out? Clustering multiple servers together for high availability, like if one server fails, the VMs move automatically.
Big difference here. ProxMox includes clustering and high availability features right out of the box. No extra cost.
Built-in HA.
Nice. Yeah. You can group hosts, manage them centrally, and set up HA pools so VMs can fail over.
And for ESSi to do that.
You need vCenter Server and the appropriate paid vSphere licenses, like standard or higher. Clustering, HA, vMotion, live migration. Those core enterprise features in the VMware world require investment.
So free HA with ProxMox, paid HA with ESX. That's pretty significant.
Very significant, especially for smaller organizations or those on tighter budgets.
Okay, let's try to synthesize this. Who typically uses which platform? What are the sweet spots?
Well, ProxMox often appeals strongly to SMBs, small to medium businesses, because it's so cost-effective. You get a lot of features without license fees.
Makes sense. Anyone else?
Educational institutions use it a lot.
Yeah.
Also popular for development and testing environments where that flexibility and open source nature are valued. And if you have a lot of Linux workloads or really want that integrated container support, ProxMox is often a natural fit.
And ESXi, where does it shine?
Large enterprises, organizations that need those really advanced features, the mature ecosystem, the extensive vendor support, and maybe already have a big investment in VMware technology.
Integration is key there.
Right. Also, environments that are heavily Windows-centric sometimes find ESXi offers tighter integration, though ProxMox handles Windows VMs fine too. But familiarity and the ecosystem often pull enterprises towards VMware.
So wrapping this up, it really sounds like there's no single better platform, is there?
Not at all. It genuinely boils down to your specific needs, your team's expertise, your budget, and maybe your long-term plans.
ProxMox looks like a really powerful, flexible, and crucially free solution with great community backing. Very attractive if cost is a big factor, if you like open source, or if you need VMs and containers easily.
Exactly. And ESXi is the proven, robust industry standard, known for performance, stability, and those deep enterprise features, but you need to be prepared for the licensing cost to unlock its full potential. Its strongest stability, commercial support, and fitting into that VMware ecosystem are your top priorities.
You know, probably the best advice, if you can do it, is to actually try both. Set up a small test environment, maybe?
Absolutely. Nothing beats hands-on experience with your own typical workloads. See how easy it is for you to manage, how well it performs on your hardware. Consider what's really critical for you.
Yeah, what features do you absolutely need now, and what might you need down the road? This deep dive hopefully gave a good overview, but we really encourage you to explore more based on what matters most to you.
What really stood out to you listening today as the biggest difference? What questions are still running through your mind as you weigh these options?
Thinking about those questions is key. It helps clarify your own priorities.
Definitely. Keep learning, keep exploring the details. That's how you build the right virtual environment for your goals.
Well, thank you for joining us on TechDaily.AI for this comparison. We really hope this gave you some valuable insights.
Stay curious, keep exploring the tech landscape.
And we'll catch you next time for another deep dive.